Hello everyone, this is Hostage of Europe, Anwar Nillufary. Today is Wednesday, March 17, 2021. In this video I'm going to talk about what happened to the last September's fundraising campaign and why do I have an online petition now. As you might be aware, during the last September, 2 or 3 days prior to my hospitalization and while I was still on hunger strike at the doorsteps of the UNHCR office in Athens, Greece, a group of Kurds and Persians residing in the United States and Canada who have supposedly responded to my public calls for help after nearly 3 weeks of stalling and immediately after a mediation by a contact person of my own at the Faculty of Law at the University of Toronto, have finally managed to have my fundraising campaign up and running. This fundraising campaign was hosted on GoFundMe.com. As my hospitalization occurred, it also gradually turned out that the faulty sponsorship undertaking organized by these people didn't really mean to work out because they never gathered 5 people, be it in the province of British Columbia or Ontario. Clearly, this was the first step and, more importantly, essential in order to be eligible for undertaking the said sponsorship under Canada's Group of 5 refugee resettlement program. However, regardless of said obvious fact, it seems that for some reasons they have also practically deceived me into sending very sensitive information and documents with respect to my case, even when it turned out they had no real intention of either assembling a group of 5 of private sponsors nor helping for my resettlement, but rather only stalling for as long as they could go on with it. Apparently they did this in pursuit of their own hidden agenda. It was still September, while I was still remained hospitalized for the second time and in the second hospital, that it had become pretty much clear to me that the incomplete group in the British Columbia had ulterior agendas, politically and racially motivated, among many other things. Unfortunately, later this turned out to be true, even for the incomplete group in Ontario as well. Also, I wasn't blind to any of those initial indications, but perhaps my vulnerable state, lack of any alternative solution, and the desperateness for getting out of the hell loop they had created for me in this savage country made me so foolishly optimistic, even when all the evidence pointed out in the opposite direction. It was becoming harder and nearly impossible to believe and trust the people who had conditioned their support on total elimination of my essential presence on the social media, a condition which they put forward right after my hospitalization occurred. This not only was very odd but also contradictory, as there was no mention of such a condition, not even in the slightest, when I was still on hunger strike, almost about 3 weeks prior to my hospitalization, which apparently they had only used for stalling. The people who had begun hinting me at the third hunger strike right after my second hunger strike's hospitalization occurred. Looking backward, perhaps this is where you could make sense of their stalling strategy. Perhaps all they ever wanted for me was to get hurt or even die of starvation, while pretending to have been saints and benevolent. The people who dared insulting and ruthlessly humiliating me on no basis or whatsoever, while I was struggling with a life and death situation during my second hospitalization. And the people who were getting angry at me for the simple use of the term my cause, and discrediting and downplaying years of my continued protest, many months of it being on hunger strike, and all carried out under the harshest and the most inhumane conditions. The people who had claimed again and again that assembling 5 people to act as my private sponsors would be as easy as a piece of cake, yet they never really gathered 5 people, even regardless of many months they had ahead of them. The people who had even sanctioned me for over 2 months and deprived me of nearly 500 euros, which was raised through a parallel fundraising campaign run under my name, specifically for the coverage of my daily expenses while still waiting in Greece. The people who were pushing again and again for having me get mixed up with groups of 15 to 20 people in a small residence in a time of COVID-19 crisis, and with total disregard for my own health conditions, perhaps with the ultimate aim of hurting me there through their own proxies. The people who had bragged about running a fundraising campaign for sending tablets to Persians in Iran, yet declined to run one that was essential for my survival, and had eventually left me to starve. The people who had at some point even tried to force me out of Athens and repeatedly pressurized me into renewing some documents they had never needed for the sponsorship undertaking to go ahead, and thereby intentionally working for my further imprisonment in Greece. Or all this horrible experience in many ways had renewed the bitterness of one of the most painful situations I was put through in the northern Iraq between the years 2012 and 2014, which I had suffered at the hands of the government of Mafia there alongside with the Iranian terrorist regime, and was orchestrated to bring about the total destruction of my life and never existed my safety and stability in the region. One of my everyday worries is now whether the sensitive personal information these people have had me sent to them so deceitfully would be put in use for identity theft purposes or not, because I think most probably that's what had happened in the northern Iraq and was one of the reasons contributing to have wanted me either dead or completely removed from the region. Having gone through all those horrible experiences again in such a vulnerable state and such a difficult time with no outcomes at all had only added to the possibility of the Iranian terrorist regime and the government of mafia in northern Iraq being deeply involved as well with the years of my systematic deprivation and prolonged imprisonment in Greece. Because it turned out all these people ever wanted was to sabotage the whole process of my resettlement and thereby extend this hostage-taking situation into many more years. In other words, wolves in sheep's clothing and serpents in ambush who would strike in one's most vulnerable state exactly when it is least expected. In conclusion, and to all of those who may have contributed to the said fundraising campaign advertised for on my social media accounts during last September, at least I hope that you have got your refund. If you haven't, I highly appreciate it if you let me know about it immediately. You must have gotten your refund on January 5th, 2021. I offer my sincere apologies for belated updates in this regard. Although I wrote an announcement regarding the matter on Thursday, February 18, 2021, through a post on my Facebook page as well as several tweets on my Twitter feed, but due to continued health complications completely different from my gallstones, which have totally crippled my speaking abilities, I couldn't make any video announcement about this issue. I would, however, like to clarify, as a matter of the fact, I never had access to those funds in any ways, forms, or capacity. On the other hand, since I didn't have and still don't have any valid documents, which has been like this ever since March 19, 2018, it was decided that any funds withdrawn to be transferred and held in a trust account and to be put in use for recoveries of my resettlement expenses, which of course this was something that never occurred. Neither the opening of the trust account nor my resettlement, and I haven't benefited from those funds in any ways. In fact, I have strong suspicion that they may as well have taken or stolen all the funds for themselves, nearly $7,500, because at the end they never send or show any evidence to establish sufficient proof of refund of those donations, which is why, in case you had contributed to the said fundraising campaign yet have not received your refund, it is very critical to get in touch with me and let me know as soon as possible. In the meantime, I have also inquired about the fate and the statistic of the campaign with the people in the GoFundMe itself, but as of now they have not given any clear and straight answers regarding my questions. Additionally, oddly enough, the campaign page still seems to be working, and it appears that donors could still make donations, which supposedly is to cover my resettlement expenses of moving to Canada, and still runs under my name with my picture on it. However, the question remains, if there is no group of 5 and if there is no resettlement for me through the private sponsorship, as the campaign calls for it, then there shouldn't be a fundraising campaign under my name up and running, seeking donation with the same narrative. With my resettlement through the private sponsors led to a total failure, I had to look for other ways to seek justice and have my dire situation resolved. At the moment, one of the ways you could offer help with this cause and express your discontent about this ongoing oppression is to sign and share my online petition with whomever you can. To find this petition, simply go to change.org/Hostage-of-Europe. Justice delayed is justice denied. In Greece, not only they stripped me of all my resources essential for my survival and took away every shred of my dignity, but seems they wouldn't want to put an end to this ongoing oppression and infringement until they have taken away my life as well. Nothing like this should happen to anyone, anywhere, and no one should be put through a situation like this. This is a dire emergency. Please do not be indifferent and ignorant to what is happening here, and take action now. Thank you. Yours respectfully, Hostage of Europe, Anvar Niloufari. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. And that would be it for this video. Take care. Bye.